This is the Q Zone podcast, giving you an in-depth insight into the Q sports industry like never before. With an inside track into all areas of the industry, we'll be opening the door for you to learn things that before only those on the inside would get to know. I am your host, Rob Reed, and enjoy the Q Zone podcast. Okay, so this is going to be something slightly different. I wanted to discuss a poll that I put up the other day in the Q Zone podcast group on Facebook, which is, can anyone be a top professional player? Basically, it's a question of talent versus effort. What makes the greats great? Okay, how much does talent play a part? So this is going to be recorded for a Q Zone podcast episode, which, by the way, I am, as you can probably tell, winding down. But I wanted to discuss this. This is a very different way of doing it. So I'm currently recording, and this will go out on all of the podcast platforms. But it is a Facebook Live, so it is interactive. Hi, John. Nice to see you. So any comments you put, this is going to be discussion based. Unfortunately, it's one way, but I will read your comments out and we can discuss it. But I wanted to start by going into the topic slightly by speaking about what I've heard in the industry, what a lot of people are talking about, and also going through a couple of the comments that are on that poll itself. So ultimately, the poll on the group was, I was very harsh. I gave you two options. You couldn't select anything else, but I encouraged comments. Okay, so option number one, to answer the question, can anyone be a top professional player, was only a select few can. You either have it or you don't. The common phrase, you have it or you don't, it's talent, they're talented. And you could either select that or option two, anyone. It's a learnt skill that anyone with dedication can master. Now, interestingly, 25 to 14, 25 voted only a select few can be a top professional player, and 14 voted that anyone can be a top professional player. Hi, Brian, nice to see you too. So if you're just joining the live, I've just mentioned it's a podcast that we're recording, but we're recording live. It's discussion based. So if you've got any comebacks to what I'm saying, questions, challenge my way of thinking, because on the post, whether I believed in it or not, I just challenged everyone and played devil's advocate, and it sparked a lot of debate and conversation. So let me just clarify why I put that post on the Facebook group first. And it's because I've been triggered by reading, I like reading, I've got huge amounts of books behind me and everything, but I'm currently reading, which has been recommended by a lot of successful people, Mindset by Dr. Carol S. Dweck. And in that, essentially the premise of the book is there's two mindsets. A fixed mindset, which is essentially you've either got it or you don't. This is the you must achieve, and if you don't achieve, you're a failure and a nobody. But if you achieve, you're a somebody. And the growth mindset is, if you have that failure, then you see that as a challenge, and it's a room for growth, and you relish that. And actually, if someone says you can't do it, that almost spurs you on more to go, I'm going to do this. Now, you may identify in certain aspects of your life as fixed mindset and certain aspects as growth. It's not you are one or the other in all areas of life. And certain things that you think about, you will be the fixed or growth. And I've very much seen in myself that a lot of the time where I wasn't happy with a certain thing, I was in a fixed mindset. Now, unfortunately, the fixed mindset being you either got it or you don't means effort is not in existence, right? So the fixed mindset in terms of can someone be a professional player, saying no, you've got it or you don't, it's a fixed mindset because ultimately that doesn't take into account any effort. And I will scroll through this book because I go through books and highlight all the key important areas, right? And I will go through and I will try and find it as much as possible because I'll be flicking through an entire book with no references here. Some of the things that I've highlighted to sort of back up the opinion that I have, and it's opinion based. If someone presents me with other research facts or can argue against it in a good way, then I will happily change my opinion. Okay, I've changed my mindset based on this book and my opinion. Therefore, John, I love the growth personally. When people say I can't, I will do anything to do it and have an even bigger drive. Yeah, and that's a key indicator of a growth mindset. Okay, and that's a great way to be. Let me just clarify this before I move on, okay? The reason that the poll was harsh is because ultimately to be the best, the GOAT, the greatest of all time, then yes, you need talent. There is a certain amount of talent that someone can have that you're born with, those that are gifted, right? But they don't get to the top. You cannot rely on gift alone. You have to graft. You have to have that growth mindset. So, for example, Ronnie O'Sullivan, Cassie, can I ask where you got your wallpaper? Luckily, the podcast is going to be audio, and they're not going to see this hideous wallpaper that was put up in probably the 1950s. No, you can't, Cassie. Getting back to my point of Ronnie O'Sullivan, for example. Okay, yes. Possibly the most gifted, talented player ever to grace the game that we know of at the moment. That we know of. Look at how much work he puts in day to day in snooker. Look at the graft. Speak to the people that would tour with him, Jason Francis and the others. Just speak to them about how much graft he would put in, and he enjoyed it because it was learning, it was growing. If you look at the people that didn't achieve, mostly it's because they put the graft in, but have this overarching, I'm a natural talented player, and if I fail, I'm a nobody, and it's the, I've put the effort in. But because they're constantly told that they're going to succeed, they're going to be a success, then if they put the effort in, if they try and do that and they fail, then they'd let everyone down. So a lot of the time they try not to failing. John, failing should be seen as a challenge and makes you go away to put the effort and time in, come back next time even stronger. Yeah, absolutely right. And that's a growth mindset, John. Unfortunately, it knocks a lot of people back. So this whole, and it stems from parenting, education system, societal norms, okay, especially with the huge growth of social media, and our lives are on display all the time. Then ultimately we have that gratification of, right, I must succeed. I must be seen to succeed. If I don't succeed, I'm a failure. And ultimately we try and get the next generation to be successes, to achieve. And by doing so, we're ultimately planting that seed that if they don't succeed, they're a failure, which will it will split people into either a fixed mindset or a growth mindset, okay? If someone doesn't enjoy something because they're not succeeding, it's probably a fixed mindset. If they're in a growth mindset and they're like, well, this is amazing because I get to learn and develop and challenge myself and better myself, then ultimately what they can do is it doesn't matter if they fail. Thomas Edison, so for the new business that I've created, which is all about helping people, I like to create quotes and put them on social media. And I've literally just did one yesterday, which is a Thomas Edison quote that says, I have not failed. I have just found 10,000 ways that will not work. And we look at him as a success. But there was a lot of people, a lot of times, that saw him as a failure and said that he's mental and he's crazy. And ultimately, the failure drove him, as you say, John, it drove him to put more effort in. Now, we think of Thomas Edison as just, tinkering away in his workshop by himself, and he just stumbles across a light bulb. And actually, he had pristine workshops and scientific labs with a huge team around him that were all micro inventions, putting something together, and it was a team effort led by Thomas Edison. And that is exactly what we need to do in terms of our snooker game, is go, right, okay, I'm not alone here. People want to see people succeed, right? But people inherently think that no one's going to help them, and that person just wants to see them succeed. Well, that's not true. People like to be part of that journey, right? So if you speak to coaches, they love getting someone through that journey, okay? The best thing for me is when one of my students becomes a better player than me, okay? Now, that's not hard because I don't play anymore and haven't played for a long time. Doesn't mean I still can't coach someone and make them improve, and I can still demonstrate what I need to. But the best thing is seeing them succeed and overtake me in skill level and develop. And what I like to try and do is create a mindset where they're enjoying learning and find opportunities for growth, whether that's through me or someone else. Brian, in snooker terms, Ronnie is ridiculously talented and grafts hard, but so does Selby and other similar types of more grinder types of players. Regardless of talent, you've got to put in the hours. Yeah, absolutely. So if you had 100 pieces of paper on a dartboard representing 100% of people, about 2% of people have just pure natural talent. So colour those in green. And there's about, say, 2% of people that they can't do it. You know, people are amazing at things, right? But there are certain limitations, whether that's physical, mental or emotional limitations, where people just cannot do that with whatever they're born with. In terms of, I'm talking about being a GOAT, a greatest of all time. I'm not saying that they can't absolutely achieve what they want to achieve. Now, achievement and success is defined differently by different people. So we'll get into that in a minute. But if you colour those two things, right, you've got 96 pieces of paper on a board. Close your eyes, throw a dart. What are you most likely going to hit? The numbers say you're going to hit a piece of white paper, like one of those squares. And that's where you sit. Yeah, you're not inherently naturally talented, a bit like Ronnie or Selby or Judd Trump or any of the others. I'm just using sort of modern day examples for this. And you're not necessarily going to be in the category that cannot achieve. Now, you've got a player that's inherently talented. Let's take baseball's Billy Beane, right? Now, if you've seen the film Moneyball, you'll know the story behind Billy Beane. He was considered to be the next greatest of all time, the next GOAT in baseball. He had so much pressure on him to be a success that he didn't want to try because he thought he would fail, and being a failure is being a nobody. So ended up twitching it and not putting that effort in, and just took that as failure upon himself, and it really got him down. Look at Ronnie, Stephen Hendry, look at all of the world champions. The time that they were world champion is when they put in the most effort. Now, Ronnie is an older player. Now, should he be able to play the way he is? A lot of people say, oh, the older players can't keep up with the younger generation. And it's not necessarily that. It's they put in less effort because they've had God knows how many years of being grinded down by their profession, and they don't put in that amount of effort and work. A classic snooker testimony to this is Mark Williams. Mark did not put he wasn't enthralled by the game. Until he got a new coach and found a new way of doing it, and had this growth spurt of this new way of looking at a game, which made him into a growth mindset, which he absolutely loved. Now, ultimately, that forced him to play more, practice more, dedicated practice, and he grew from that and managed to win the world championships. Now, you know, I'm not saying whether it is or not down to the technique that he was using. I have my absolute own opinions there, but what that technique did do for him is gave him that growth mindset, which is absolutely fantastic, and he put the effort in. So someone that is a grafter, for example, I would, and you know, I hope he doesn't take this the wrong way. I absolutely love him to pieces as a person and a player. Stuart Bingham is not, I don't think, the most naturally talented player. I don't think he is. But what he did do when he won the World Championship is put in a hell of a lot of graft, huge amounts of graft, learning all the times. Sean Murphy is another one that constantly puts in the hours on the table and always looks at learning and trying to develop in himself. And he's fantastic at it, which is why I consider him extremely good in the commentary box and when he's presenting and doing everything he is now. Those players aren't as naturally talented, but can beat Ronnie. It's one of those things that it's this whole, I gave you these two options which were unfair. A lot of you commented saying that it's that you're conflicted in which one to go for because you've got to have a bit of talent, but you've also got to put the graft in. If there could have been someone more naturally talented than Ronnie that hasn't put the graft in. Now, Judd Trump could have fallen into this trap. And I think he was about to, and his brother gave him that growth mindset spurt and it gave him a different way of looking at it, which is why when his brother came on board for the year leading up to the World Championships, he managed to win the World Championships. And I hope that he continues with that growth mindset and does as well as he is deemed to be, because he is the next greatest. I think naturally, as all the players go, he is one of the most natural players. You can tell that by the fact that he should not be able to pot a ball with his cue action, right? It's terrible. It's all over the place, but it's so consistent. Yes, I've used the word consistent again. It's so consistent that he does. Stephen Hendry, and I'm trying to remember a story that I was told when I had a few beverages inside my body, but I got told that Stephen Hendry, even after he had won a match, he would celebrate but then go straight back on the practice table because he knew there was elements in the match that he could improve on, and he went straight back in. Now, Stephen Hendry, whether you regard him as the greatest of all time, he can be regarded as one of the greats because of the amount of work that he put in. And that's from a growth mindset of, even if I fail here, I'm going to learn from it, and I'm going to take those lessons learned to better myself. So I challenged a lot of people on this. So Chris commented on the original post saying, like anything, snooker is a skill that can be learned, but it's important people understand their limits and be realistic in their aspirations. Only a handful of people make it to the very top in any sport. That's just the way it is. Now, I would heavily argue against that point personally, because the people that make it to the top are people that have put the effort in. Now, there is a lovely quote in here that I will try and find, but it talks about effort being an excuse, because people with a fixed mindset can say things like, oh, I could have been one of the greats. And Sean, I think you're confusing natural talent with flair. No, I'm talking about talent. Flair is basically the execution of that. I'm talking about talent. Inherently what someone is capable of right from the start, and how much effort they have to put in to be good. You still need to put in effort, a lot of effort, to be great. But this fixed mindset is interesting because it gives you an excuse. And I'm trying to find the quote so I don't just completely muddle my way through it. So here we go. Why is effort so terrifying? Because it robs you of all excuses. Without effort, you can always say, I could have been. But once you try, you can't say that anymore. So if anyone says, oh, I could have been this, that they're saying that because They didn't try. They didn't put that effort in. Now, for whatever reason, right? Whether that is fear, laziness, or something else, right? That something else could be they've got a job and they need an income to survive, and therefore can't put in the unpaid many hours, in fact, costly many hours of practice on a snooker table to be able to become that greatness. So, you know, I'm not saying that everyone can become a great, but I'm saying everyone has the potential to put the effort in to make it close to. Look at Michael Jordan. Every time he missed lots of game-winning opportunities. Okay, I think he counted there was 23 or 28 shots that relied on him to make the shot to win the game, and he missed. Yet he's remembered for his greatness, and that's because as soon as he came off that session, off that match, he would go and practice his free throws and practice his maneuvers. And that's the same with and why can't I think of the name? And I've just said it. Stephen Hendry. Yeah, forgetful name, that one. That's what Stephen Hendry would do. Steve Davis would do with his dad. Keep him disciplined enough to go back on the table straight away and work on the game, and find, even in the wins and in the failures, and the losses, failure is awesome because it gives you so much value to learn from and develop and better yourself. So here's my personal opinion. There are a very, very select few that have a natural inherent talent, this quality within them that if they put the effort into, can develop into something great, something amazing. Anyone, however, can be a great, unless you are disadvantaged in some sort of way that isn't an excuse. Okay, there are, like, if you have no arms, no legs, it's going to be pretty tough for you to play snooker, and it's also to be a great at snooker. Okay, WDBS are proving that even if you have a disability, you can still be incredibly good at snooker, and I think time will tell that they can become potentially one of the greats. How, on what scale they're going to do that, we can only wait to find out, and it's exciting to see. But look at those guys, go to a WDBS event, and it's incredible because so many of them have this growth mindset, and obstacles and failure do not set them back, and it's just a propellant for them to be better and do better. Because, you know, a lot of people that say, oh, you can't do this, what have you got to lose when you then try it? But you've got lots to lose if someone says you're a natural, you're going to be the next great. And actually what we should be doing, especially with the next generation, is rewarding effort, not rewarding success. Success is great and you can enjoy that, reflect on it, but then go straight into the, okay, reward the effort part. And I'm not talking about, here's a participation medal. I'm not talking about that at all, okay? Obviously, there is a league of defined who's better and who's worse. You know, who come first place, who's runner-up, third, fourth rankings. But that should fuel getting to the top of those rankings. That's, if you want to define that as your level of achievement, your level of success, that's great. But what we should do is we should reward people in effort. And I'm talking reward, by the way, I'm not talking about prizes or money or medals. I'm talking about compliments. Yeah, you didn't win that. You came third, but you did extremely well. And look at all the preparations, and also look at the lessons that you've learned. Right, that's exciting. We've now got lots of effort that we can put onto the table in practice and go through in the mindset coaching part, that we can now look at and grow from that. John, Ronnie says he hates playing the people who are just happy to be there, but like you say, they have nothing to lose and normally get a result against playing him. Yeah, so just being happy to be there is is different from taking it seriously and using it for room for growth. Look at just being happy to be there is not a learning environment. That's just I'm just going to enjoy this, which is great, by the way. I'm not saying that's not a thing. But if you actually want to challenge yourself, you do take it seriously. You enjoy the journey, but you take that moment of that defining moment to see whether you can achieve. You take that seriously, and if you take it seriously, you know if you're going to take it seriously, right? Because you wouldn't have put all the effort in practice. So I don't know because I can't speak for Ronnie, and I haven't talked to him about this, but what I think he means by that is people that don't put the effort in, don't take it seriously enough, okay? Now, Ronnie, when he wants to take it seriously, you'll know that because his attitude changes and the amount of work that he puts in behind the scenes changes. Now, don't forget, there is this whole process of what someone sees and what someone doesn't. And if I can get, I've got a great slide that I'll try and get to demonstrate. But there is essentially, if you think of it like an iceberg, you've got what people see, which is that 10% at the top or whatever it is. And that is your actions and your results. That's what people see. But what people don't see, which is everything underneath that 80, 90% that's underneath that people can't see, is your behavior, your skill, your attitude, your mindset, your environment, all of these things that you have control of. You don't necessarily have control over your results, okay? And even your actions are a result of your behaviors, right? And your beliefs and your skills. So what you do have control over is the behind the scenes, under the water, what people don't see, actions, behaviors, environment. You can affect that, you can change all of that. And that's good. That's good to know, because if you get a result that you don't want or don't like, that's out of your control. What is within your control is the months leading up to that defining moment. Okay. So I just wanted to come on here, just clarify a few things in what I believe. I cannot stand the word realistic. Okay. For goals, realism is okay, because a goal is something that you are going to achieve as in within that short period of time, because it's timelined. A dream, however, and this is what we're talking about, people's dreams to become a great in snooker or whatever they want to become a great in. Realism is a horrible word to use, and I don't like it. Because if I said to you, or if someone turned around to you and said, oh, I want to send a rocket to space, and also I want that rocket to come down and so I can reuse it and send it up again. Like, you would just laugh at them and go, great, okay, let's be realistic. Well, Elon Musk did it. He's one person, and his dream wasn't realistic. He didn't know how he was going to achieve it. It'd never been done before, but his goals, individual steps. So a goal was, right, get a rocket scientist on board and employ them to do this. Right, next goal is just to launch something. Next goal is to see if we can get whatever that's in the air to land back on a platform. And it's these goals, those are realistic, those are achievable because of the technology or whatever we've got there. But his dream of sending a reusable rocket into space was not realistic, okay? So don't confuse dreams and goals. Goals are sort of, you've got a timeline on them, and they are that realistic, because when you achieve that, or if you don't achieve that and you get all the learning lessons on, at least you're going in the direction towards your dream. Okay, now your dream can be the greatest of all time, or it can just be a great, or it can be top 16. Whatever your dream is, you set those goals within a growth mindset to achieve that. Okay. So I went a little bit off tangent there about dreams and goals, but this term realistic is, I hear from even other coaches, that say, oh, don't tell someone that they can be a professional player because it's not realistic and you're setting them up for failure. Well, not necessarily. It's a mindset thing. And unfortunately, where I've heard that is, for me, the wrong mindset, because anyone can be a professional player if they've got the right mindset and if you're willing to put in the effort that it takes. So if you've got any comments on what I've discussed, then please feel free to leave comments or even post in the Facebook group, the Q-Zone podcast. Do make sure you subscribe to the channel, and I will leave it there. As I said, these are my opinions and these are my views on the world based on the research that I've done. If you've got opposing views, then I'll happily hear them. I would love to see your reasoning behind that, and if it's good sort of research-based reasoning that I can get on board with, then it's entirely likely that I could change my tune and beliefs. But I've done a lot of research into this, and this is kind of what I feel happy at the moment in my beliefs being. So thank you to everyone that's watching this live and that's commented on the video. And I will look forward to instigating another debate with some other controversial topic soon. Take care, have a lovely week.
Hey, it's Rob Reed here. I hope you're enjoying the Q-Zone podcast. Why not join our free online community where you'll get the latest Q-Zone news, updates and episode releases. It's also a place where you can ask us any questions and suggest guests and topics for future episodes. Join our community now at facebook.com/groups/Q-Zone podcast. I'll see you there.